Welcome to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. I'm your host, Brendyn Jones, joined as always with our producer, Nithin Reddy, on this cold October Monday evening in Champaign. Nithin, how are you doing?
I actually do like the cold weather, especially this kind of cold, because it's not like I got to wear all the layers, but the rain really kills me.
It is drizzling a little bit. Hate to see it. We talked about this last week. I'm not a huge fan of the cold. Today wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be a little colder, but seems like pretty soon I'll have to bust out the winter jacket.
Oh, yeah.
But Champaign wasn't the only thing that was cold this weekend. The Illini, stone cold, brick cold, freezing cold in their debut against Wisconsin, against the 14th ranked Wisconsin. Illinois looked helpless.
Yeah.
I've been trying to put the pieces together since Friday night about what happened, whether it be the lack of production from receivers, whether it be lack of decision-making by quarterback, bad offensive line play, no run game, terrible coverage, whether that be talent-wise, whether it be coaching. In my 3 years as an Illinois student watching Illinois football, I can only think of one other game that just had no positives like this, and it was when Iowa came here and busted them 63-0. We thought this was a better team. I still think they are.
Yeah.
But, man, they let Graham Mertz, who on Wednesday we just said, if you're going to lose to them, you got to let Graham Mertz beat you with his arm. And did he beat them?
Yeah.
20 for 21 on 248 yards. 5 touchdowns, 4 of them coming in the first half, right? Or was that 3? 3 of them coming in the first half. 1 literally in almost the closing seconds of the second half. The only Illini score coming off of a fumble recovery taken back for a touchdown. This offense just 31 rushing yards. 131 rushing yards. Most of them.
But that's very skewed with Brandon.
Yeah, with Brandon Peters putting up 75 rushing yards, 87 receiving yards. It was bad. It was really, really, really bad. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to end. Other than just saying, like, it was hard to watch that game. It was real hard to watch that game.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly for us, it was very hard because we killed the idea that, okay, Graham Mertz has to beat you, and you got to stop Wisconsin's running game. And Wisconsin's running game, I mean, they ran for 182 yards, but it took them 54 attempts. Mm-hmm. So I thought the Illini D played pretty well against the run. But I didn't anticipate Graham Mertz starting the game 17 for 17 and tying the Wisconsin school record for consecutive completions and then later touchdowns in a game. In his first start, and the sad thing is that the defense was probably better than the offense. Mm-hmm. And they gave up 45 points because they made some impactful plays. Granted, they couldn't do anything in the secondary, but they got the big touchdown, got it to 7-14, and you're thinking, all right, this game might not be over. And Brandon Peters, who we hyped up the entire last 2 weeks, did not play well.
A lot of Illinois fans were hoping for a Heisman-esque run with Brandon Peters. I've seen it a lot on Twitter.
Yeah.
That ended on Friday.
Yeah.
No hope coming out the gate. You can't,
I don't care if he becomes Joe Burrow the rest of the season. Like, he's not winning.
They're going to look back at 87 yards, no touchdowns, 8 for 19. They might give him that 75 rushing yards, though. I don't know. It was hard to watch because it just felt like from after the fumble by Mike Epstein to start the game, seemed like the wind was kind of out of the sails. And then you get that fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then you're like, at that point, I think it's 21-7.
I think it was 14.
Or it might be, okay, so 14-7. And you're like, okay, this is Illinois, right? Now you just get another stop on defense, and the offense will be back. The offense had no momentum at all throughout the entire game. It looked like they had no identity. Brandon Peters was trying to feed Josh Matterbebe. Josh Matterbebe was not catching balls. Brandon Peters were throwing some balls that weren't that good. I mean, they tried out Isaiah Williams for a lot of option type stuff.
Didn't really work.
Threw a pick. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very ugly game, and I think you could tell by stuff that was said in the press conference today that obviously nobody's happy with this. But not only are they not happy, they're surprised.
Yeah,
they thought that they were.
Quote.
They thought that they were such a better team than this. They thought that they were way more prepared than this, and they thought that they were going to go up to Wisconsin and give them a showing and show why this team made a bowl game last year. And lo and behold, the spread was right, you know? And, I mean, you hate to see it. I don't think this isn't the because I think there was good moments in the game, right, on defense. I think that for the majority of the first half, the defensive line played really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Roderick Perry, who's the grad transfer they got, can be a very impactful Big Ten player. I think that a lot of people on this defensive line showed up that you might not think.
Tariq Barnes played pretty well.
Tariq Barnes played really well. Isaiah Gay was suspended, but is going to come back. So you hope that can help fill out some of this line, so they can be even more consistent. But that secondary, man, we're doing no favors.
I mean, they got 7 tackles for loss, that's a
I mean, the defensive line was good.
Yeah. The problem was Mertz destroyed them, and it wasn't that he was just throwing pinpoint balls. I'm not saying he was bad by any means,
right?
But guys were wide open. Like that touchdown to end the half was a great throw, but it was a wide open receiver.
I think it was cover 2. They just beat the cover 2. Nobody came over and picked him up. Can't do that.
A lot of his TDs were just guys in the back of the end zone.
The second one, right, where I think they all committed to the run. Nobody was guarding the tight end.
Yeah.
You put me out there, I'll make the throw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, and we're not sitting here saying that Graham Mertz is bad. He had great moments, great composure to go in there.
Very, very good.
Very, very good. Only whenever he took chances, it looked like it, worked out for him. But through a lot of good, easy completions, set up his team to win. And that's what you expect for them to do, right?
Yeah.
Very tough. Very, very tough outing. And we talked about this. We talked about this Wisconsin game being like what it has to be and what it's going to mean. And it's going to answer some questions. And I think I have more questions now than I did. Were we fooled? Were we bamboozled into thinking that this offense is going to be good? Are they good? Was it just a bad outing?
So I'm going to play the optimistic role a little bit because coming in, I was thinking maybe we have to change expectations, which we still probably do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's worth noting that, one, we anticipated Graham Mertz looking like a redshirt freshman quarterback, and he didn't. He looks like a composed veteran quarterback, and he's a very talented quarterback considering he was the number 3 quarterback in his class. So he has the talent. We just figured he'd play like a freshman, and he didn't. The run defense was very good. Defensively, there are things to pick apart. Offensively, I'm just throwing this game out the window because I don't know. I don't know what happened. I can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hoping that this is maybe it was the first game of the year. The offense wasn't clicking entirely. You're playing against a very good Wisconsin team that has a chance at making the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't going to win the game, probably. Like, you needed something crazy like what happened last year.
Right. And we talked about that. You need everything to go right, and then things to go wrong for Wisconsin.
And it didn't. And everything went wrong, and that's why you lose 45-7. Sometimes that happens in a game. We saw it last year when Illinois played Michigan, and we thought, they were in that game, and then Michigan just blows them out. Those things happen at times. I want to wait a week because Purdue seems like a more realistic team that you should beat or should be competing with. But it looks bad after 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing else to say, but I mean, it looks bad, right? I don't know. The best thing about this game is that you can only go up from here.
Yeah,
you can't get worse than you did what you showed on Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether that be the secondary needs to step up. I understand Milo Eifler was out, but you expect him to be much more contributing in the run game.
Yeah.
Run stoppage. Their run stop was good. You obviously lose Jake Hansen. Hope he's back soon and is okay. That was a very scary moment.
And it's a killer, too.
Yeah, that was a very scary moment. Unfortunate dog pile type of Looks, I mean, obviously is a head injury.
Yeah, the way he walked off the field,
It was very scary. Obviously, best wishes to him. But, you lose a couple guys. You don't have guys that you rely on in that defense. So point blank, you need to fix coverage.
Yeah.
You're going to go against you. That's probably the worst coverage game I've seen in the last year for the Illini, and they have had some bad games.
Yeah.
You can't play Purdue that way, who led the Big Ten in passing yards last year.
Yeah, they're a potent passing offense.
You can't play Ohio State like that. And
I don't even want to imagine that Ohio State game right now.
Yeah, they're coming here. But you hear all throughout the offseason how this team is different, and this team is if they want to be considered successful in the Big Ten, you need to be able to beat people, or at the very least be competitive and stay in games. And I'm looking at this, and I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they stay in games. I don't know what's going to happen with Purdue. Is Purdue going to come here on Halloween and just completely dice the secondary like a redshirt freshman did just a week before? Is the offense going to be any more productive than we thought this offense was going to have to save this team because we were unconvinced by the defensive line and unconvinced by coverage. We were proven right about the coverage. The defensive line proved us wrong. But this offense, man, you got to get
it's concerning.
It's concerning. You got to get it together. There's no way you can be competitive in the Big Ten when you have this senior quarterback, a whole bunch of receiving talent, a good tight end core, a good offensive line, and a good offensive coordinator in Rod Smith, and you don't put up any points.
Yeah, the struggles running the football makes sense. I'm not mad about that because we had a lot of concerns going into the season. But the fact that Brandon Peters was trying to find Josh Matter throughout the game and couldn't really, other than a few quick passes, is concerning. The fact that you have all these weapons like Javon Sidney, you got Washington, you got Luke Ford. You have so many great players, so many highly touted recruits on this offense. It should click more than 87 yards passing. It should click more than, other than a couple Brandon Peters runs, doing nothing on the offensive end.
Right.
They have to have a better showing against Purdue because right now this team, we were hoping for a 4-4, maybe 5-3 sort of season. And from an optimistic point of view, this looks like a 1-7, 2-6 team at best right now.
And that's what we talked about. And it's not even the fact that they lose this game, because we all expected them to lose this game. It's just the fact of how ugly the performance was.
Yeah.
And how concerning it is, because if you play like this, you're not beating Purdue, which we think is going to be a win. You might not even beat Maryland.
Might not be Rutgers.
Might not be Rutgers. You're going to have to play Michigan State. You're going to have to so it's very, very concerning. We're going to go to our first break. When we come back, we're still going to break down this game. We're going to talk a little bit about what has to happen to turn this around, because it's not looking good in Champaign right now. This is Illini Drive, 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. Nithin just saved my life.
Oof,
I need 3 points to win this fantasy game this week. Tyler Higbee was ruled out, and I have the Bears defense. That's it. And he's like, why don't you just pick up another tight end? First year doing fantasy, you know what? And this man just saved my life, so I appreciate it, Nithin. Thank you so much.
Hey, we all have brain farts in life.
Love it. Love it. Just got Jimmy Graham. Hopefully he can get – all I need is 20 yards. That's all I need, and then Bears defense not to go negative. And
okay, that should be enough.
I can do that. I'm ready for that.
It's Jared Goff. So
it is Jared Goff.
We'll talk about that later, though.
We will. We will hit on that later. Game at 7:15. Back to Illini football. The other orange and blue.
Oh, my God, Brendyn, you're going to kill me.
We got to talk about it.
All right.
It hurts. I wish we could forget this game, but it was just too telling. Yeah. If they came out and just played solid, we would be optimistic. If the offense scored 14 and the defense scored 7, and the game was 21-45, I wouldn't even be concerned. I wouldn't have been concerned.
I mean,
if it was production.
I'd still be concerned about the secondary, but yeah, offensive concerns
Right.
very much outweigh.
But it wouldn't have been right. It wouldn't have been a concern that I hadn't expected. And it's just the fact that the offense was just so unproductive that I had no idea that we would be in this situation.
The thing that really hurts is that defensively, it felt like they checked all the boxes we wanted them to. Play great D, get turnovers. I mean, play great run D, get turnovers.
Yeah.
And then we had no clue Graham Mertz
Nobody could have expected it.
We had no idea.
Those were our keys to the game.
Maybe we're just bad at this.
Yeah, maybe new line of work. I'll get a new line of work.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what we said. We said you got to figure out how to stop this run, and you have to win the turnover battle. They didn't win the turnover battle, but it was even. Mm-hmm. And our turnover was for a touchdown. Theirs wasn't. And you stopped the run for the majority of the first half, and it's just you let this guy come in. And maybe we just didn't scout enough. Maybe we didn't do the scouting report. Maybe we were just fooled, or maybe just the Illini defense. You know, anytime you leave that much room, any Division I quarterback's gonna slice you up. That's what it is, and you know it was very hard to watch because I mean this team. It was just you thought so much more of this team.
The most disappointing part for me was that Wisconsin was destroying Illinois through the first quarter and the first quarter they were just dominating up 14-0.
Yeah.
And then you get that fumble return for a touchdown. And you're thinking, all right, this is where Illinois has a little bit of life back.
Right.
Now the defense just get a quick stop. Offense can maybe start rolling. Immediately Mertz comes down and destroys that defense. Mm-hmm. 5 plays, 72 yards, quick touchdown.
Yeah.
So then, all right, the offense, can they do something to keep this defense in this game? 3 and out, you lose 9 yards, and the game's basically over at that point. And it felt like there was no fight with this team Friday night, and that's one of the many disappointments just watching this game. It's really tough talking about it because there are almost no positives to come out.
Yeah, I don't know. The defensive line did a nice job against a really good offensive line and some good runners.
We might see some more read options now because Brandon Peters looked to have.
How do you feel about that? About Isaiah Williams coming in and getting a good amount of snaps? I don't have his snap count right here. Didn't throw a lot, 0 for 3 and a pick, but seemed like in the third quarter they were just trying anything for a spark.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was, as you said, just to get a spark, or if it's something that's telling for the future. Really, what I expected from Isaiah Williams was more of a, similar to what Houston does with their quarterbacks, where they play wide receiver when they're backup quarterbacks, so they can get used to the offense. I was expecting that because we saw him play wide receiver a little bit in the bowl game, and he's obviously a great athlete. So put him out there, let him get used to being on the field, but there's a lot more Wildcat than I expected.
Yeah, and I don't know. It was because it wasn't working. I don't know. It'd be different if it worked. If it went out there and it worked. Yeah. But I think Brandon Peters could have run the read option at a similar.
He did, he did a few times.
And he did a few times. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to dig too deep into it. It's obviously one game, and I think Brandon Peters is undoubtedly the starter for this season, unless something health-wise, knock on wood, goes wrong. But it was weird to see because they gave Isaiah Williams a 3rd and 2 or a third and 3, and then went for it on 4th and 2 and put Brandon Peters back in, who hadn't been in the whole drive. I wasn't really sure what to make of their offensive strategy. Maybe they didn't have one. Maybe they're like, look, we lost this game. Let's try to figure out how we can, score or do something well. But it just never ended up working out. It was unfortunate. But yeah, I think this team has to look at itself really hard this week, which I'm sure they will. Nobody was happy. There was no bright spots in press conferences this week. Nor should they be, I don't think. But they really have to understand that they're just not as good as they thought they were from what happened on Friday. And if they want to reach that potential, something needs to change. They can't give up 45 points to an offense that we thought wasn't going to be able to pass like that. you just can't do that because we said it before. You're facing Purdue. I don't want to see Justin Fields might be able to score 70 against the offense that we saw Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Against the defense we saw Friday. It's where do you go from here? You know?
I mean, at this point, I feel like you just have to approach this as having short memory because if you're too focused on what we saw against Wisconsin, I mean, that's going to destroy your season.
Right.
Maybe the best approach is we screwed up. We played horribly. Let's move past this and let's just try to play for the next game. Because if they focus too much on the flaws that this team has and about how Wisconsin destroyed the Illini's pass defense and how Illinois is unable to do anything in the pass game offensively, it could really just take over this team. And maybe the best thing to do at this point, because there isn't a lot of positive takeaways, is to just put it in your rearview mirror and then go on to your next matchup.
So obviously we're going to break down Purdue in a deep fashion on Wednesday, as we always do before games. But just what is one thing you want to see on Saturday morning that can just like show you improvement and be like, hey, maybe this isn't a lost season. Obviously a win would be great. Mm-hmm. I don't really expect that right now. What is one thing that you're like, oh, if this happens, I'll feel better about the Illini situation?
I need to see some drives put together offensively. And it doesn't have to be start the game with 4 straight touchdowns. It's get me 10 to 14 points in that first half. That's all I'm asking for because 0 points in a full game is unacceptable. I mean, no team ever wins like that. The fact that Brandon Peters was unable to do anything through the air, especially downfield, that's what I want to see more because you've got Josh Matterbebe. You've got these great weapons. Use them. Make accurate balls. Make good decisions. You're not going to have to worry as much about the pass rush as you did against Wisconsin, so you're going to have more time. You should be able to run the ball a little bit better. I want to see improvement from this offense, obviously from the defense too, but most importantly for me, the offense, because there's nothing I feel great about from this offensive attack.
100%. Yeah, I think I'm the same. You have to be able to have production. There was never a moment in the game on Friday where I was like, okay, like they're doing something. You know, it was a bunch of 3 and outs. It was that fumble by Mike Epstein. It was drop catches. It was really, really good or really bad offensive line play. You need to have some sort of production, even if that's just like what you said, 1 or 2 drives in the first half that end in scores. But you got to do something because there's no way you're going to be anywhere near successful in this season if you play like you did Friday. And it's scary because if you play like anywhere close like you did Friday for any time at the rest of the season, you're looking at a 1-17. Yeah. You're looking at a team that is going to leave this offseason or go into this offseason with real questions about coaching, real questions about recruiting, real questions about the direction of this program when just 6-7 months ago we thought this program was on the up and up. Yeah. And now they're back to square one. They're back to last year proving themselves. So we'll see. This has now become a very consequential season for the Illini after what happened on Friday.
And for, as you mentioned, Lovie Smith and Rod Smith. Because
100%.
Going off of last season, we thought, okay, yeah, we're ready. We're ready to get this thing rolling. And week 1 is not anything like what we expected.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. But that leaves us for our Illinois football talk. Right now, we're excited because we hope we were proven wrong last time we thought we were going to get a good showing from one of our teams. But we hope on Monday Night Football that the Bears will show why they are one of the best teams in the league and why they'll hopefully be in sole possession of first place around 10:30 whenever the game ends tonight. They're playing the Rams, who maybe I'm overconfident because the Rams are 4-2 right now, set at 4-2. But I was a little worried about it at first. Saw a stat that they had only beat NFC East teams, Cowboys, Washington, the New York Giants, and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow, that is true.
Those are the only teams that they beat. Right now, the ugliest conference or the ugliest division in football. No bright spots out of any of that. Granted, they did beat the Cowboys when Dak Prescott was healthy and when that team looked its best.
But they also probably should have lost that game because the Michael Gallup catch was a controversial play.
100%.
Although if we go down that rabbit hole, you could say a lot about the Bears.
But yeah, then they beat the Eagles, they beat the Giants, they beat the Washington football team. And then they lose to the San Francisco 49ers and they lose to one other game.
The
Buffalo Bills. Bills, obviously a really good team this year. 49ers, wavery. So we'll see. I'm not that confident in this Rams team. And I'm also not that confident in Jared Goff's ability to play well against the Bears. Anytime he does, it doesn't end well for Jared Goff. And I hope that continues. Obviously, I'm sitting here praying that I'm not just speaking wrongs into the universe and it'll come back to bite me. But I'm very confident for this team. I think it all starts with the defense tonight, though. I think this defense has to show out. I think this has to be their signature game of the season in order to win because I'm still not confident in this offense, this Bears offense, especially this offensive line who's going to have to face Aaron Donald today and Nick Foles, who's going to have to really find out how to convert passes against this defense who has one of the best cornerbacks in the league in Jalen Ramsey. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard. Nick Foles is going to be pressured. I assume there are going to be a lot of incompletions, but this has to be a game where the ball is spread out throughout all receivers. Running game has to get going for the first time since seems like week 1.
Basically since Tariq Cohen.
Since Tariq Cohen got injured. So yeah, it'll be interesting. What are you looking forward to in this game, Nithin?
So I actually differ. I agree with a lot of what you said about how this Rams team hasn't really beat anyone and how the Bears have played really great against Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff has scored 23 points the last 2 years, and so 2 games against the Bears. That's really bad. He has 0 touchdowns and 5 picks. That's also very bad. So I'm not really that concerned, or I don't really need to see anything more than I've seen so far from this Bears defense because it's been a very good defense that, especially the last few weeks, has really turned the corner in what we thought might be a little bit questionable after the Lions and Falcons game.
Right.
But I need to see a good offensive performance because Nick Foles, he's winning games, but he hasn't really played that well yet. Mm-hmm. And unless you want to go back to Mitch Trubisky, which I personally don't, I want Nick Foles to finish out the season, barring injury. I need to see him have one of those games where he goes 21 for 29, 270 yards, 3 TDs, no picks. I can't see another one of these 22 for 35 games where he throws for like 160 yards, 1 or 2 TDs. I need to see like a solid game where you can't poke holes in anything. It has to just be a great from the start all the way to the end. And this is the game where it's going to be hard to do that, obviously, because Aaron Donald, that front line is lethal. It's very scary. I mean, Aaron Donald alone is an entire front line.
Terrifying human being.
Yeah. And then, as you said, Jalen Ramsey in the back. You got a lot of good secondary pieces. I want Nick Foles to carve up this Rams team. I need them to score at least 20 points in this game for me to feel better about this Bears team because, yes, they're 5-1, but there's still a lot of question marks with this team. With that said, this feels like a Jared Goff like implosion game because the Bears just do something different to Jared Goff that not a lot of teams have done.
Especially on national TV. The Rams, looking back to 2018 when they went to the Super Bowl, looked like the best team in football up until they played the Bears and Jared Goff just imploded. And then for the rest of the year, they just looked very average. it's exciting because you love it when your defense just seems like it lives rent free in a quarterback's head.
Mm-hmm.
You see it with like Kirk Cousins. You've seen it with Jared Goff, but it's also scary every year to think, is this going to be the same type, or is this going to be the turning point?
Yeah.
I really hope this is not the turning point, because this is a very, very consequential game for the Bears, and one, to be first place in the conference 7 weeks in, I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Ever. You know, and to play how they have, and they're very fortunate to be first place. They could easily be 3-3 right now. But this game matters. It matters a lot. We talked about it last week. In this next 3-game stretch, you're going to have to win one of these games. It goes Rams, Saints, Titans. You're going to have to win one of these games. This is the game. You're going to have to win
probably 2 to feel good about it.
Yeah, to feel really good, you're going to have to win 2. But this is the game you need to have, because if you don't, then you're back to question marks. You're back to what is this team, right? And this is a team you've dominated for the past 2 years. This is, a team that you need to come and dominate yet again. So we'll see. We'll see what that means for this Bears defense, but most notably for this Bears offense. If this is the game in what is this now, Nick Foles' fourth start. In his fourth start for the Bears, obviously came in the late spring. Didn't have a lot of time to make connections with these receivers. Everything's shifting pieces. We've heard the story, but this needs to be the game, as you said, that Nick Foles just catches fire and we see him just torch up this Rams defense. Because if he could torch up this Rams defense, I feel very confident as the season goes along. Because you're gonna have to play good defenses like the Packers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Titans, who have a solid defense and a really good offense. You'll see the Saints, who have a solid defense. So it is what it is, and hopefully we're proven right, and hopefully Nick Foles does really good this game. But I think it does fall primarily on the offense's shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, I benched Darrell Henderson for good juju for the Bears.
Mm.
So I'm hoping we can stop the run. I'm hoping that Nick Foles starts to look for Allen Robinson in the seams and down the field, because it's been a lot of checkdowns so far and occasional deep balls. Nick Foles is known for throwing great deep balls. I want to see progression with this offense, because it's kind of stagnated. And although I'd say the offense looked better than usual against the Panthers compared to some of the previous weeks, especially the Colts game, I still don't feel like they put any fear into any defense.
Right.
And I want to see that happen. I expect this defense to play well. I expect them to get 1, maybe two or three turnovers. So now it's up to the offense. Can Nick Foles put together drives, as we talked about with the Illini football team, can they put together drives that you feel comfortable really pushing the clock and getting even field goals, if that is, just to put pressure on the defense?
Nithin, just under 30 minutes, or just over 30 minutes until the game starts.
Yep.
Score predictions.
I'm going to go 21-16 Bears.
Really?
Yeah.
I am going to go 17-13 Bears.
Okay. I'm just going to start knocking on wood everywhere, because
we're knocking on wood here.
Granted, we didn't pick Illinois to win against Wisconsin, but it felt very much like a loss for us.
Nithin texted me during the game on Friday. He was like, we really said that they need to have Graham Mertz to beat them.
Yeah.
And he did.
He did.
And that
Boy, did he.
So we're hoping. As Bears fans, we're hoping. But that'll lead us to our second break when we get back. Game 6 of the World Series is tomorrow. We haven't talked about games 3 through 5. We'll hit on those really quickly.
And don't forget, some Bachelor preview. I'm excited.
Nithin's excited. When we come back on Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. some bad news. Class of 2021, Fenwick senior, Bryce Hopkins has committed to Kentucky just before we took our last break. He was a huge target for Illini, one of the best players in the state, top 40, obviously, in the country. Just another recruit that Illini has missed out on, including people like Brendyn Weston. So obviously tough. You don't want to see that, especially when in the past couple years you've had a lot of recruiting momentum. People like Kofi and Io and Corbello and Adam Miller. So obviously we'll see how that plays into it. But yeah, just another unfortunate loss for the Illini.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because you've had so many great classes in a row.
Yeah.
So like 2019 when Kofi came in, that class wasn't great, but it gave us Kofi, which instantly made the Illini contenders. And obviously 2020's class looks really good. It might just be one of those years where you don't get too many guys. You got Luke Good, but I think Illini fans, basketball-wise, are very content with what we're seeing.
Yeah, 100%. Can't wait to talk more about basketball in the coming months. Yeah. But we look at the World Series right now. Last one we talked about was before Game 2 on Wednesday, which the Rays then evened the series.
Wow, was it that long ago?
Yeah, I'm looking. Well, that was our last show. And that was
Wednesday.
Game 2 was Wednesday. Game 3, Dodgers come out, beat them 6-2. Game 4, Dodgers looked in control until the fiasco that was. Well,
they weren't. I wouldn't say they were in control because it was kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
You had 8 straight half innings where Aroma scored, but down the stretch, definitely.
Yeah, down the stretch, I thought the Dodgers had it, and then Rays came around and took that game. And then Game 5 goes to the Dodgers, score 4-2. Tomorrow, they go back to LA to finish out the series for Game 6 and 7. Nithin, does it end tomorrow, or is it going 7?
I mean, it looks like it probably. I mean, the Dodgers have looked like the better team throughout this series. It's still 3-2, but they probably should have won Game 4, and this series probably should have been wrapped up. I really hope Tampa can pull something off, but I'm trying to see who's on the mound. So Buehler's not on the mound. Okay, I thought he was on the mound in Game 6, but Blake Snell being on the mound, that changes things because Tampa could really use a great Blake Snell performance.
I obviously hope it goes Game 7. World Series Game 7s are always great. And we love it. We love Game 7. Best 2 words in sports.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited to watch that tomorrow. Didn't really catch last night's game. Was watching that intense Seahawks game that was. Seahawks and Cardinals game.
I was double boxing it. Got the game on my TV, and then you got got the game.
Which
the 2 games. I got the World Series on my TV, then you had Seahawks Cardinals because that was,
that Seahawks Cardinals game was wild. I was watching live as DK, and it's now viral, the DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I saw that too.
God, man, he's scary. He's scary. If I had
that should be a fantasy point, right?
Yeah, I was saying it's like that, man. And then of course, then they get the defensive stop on 4th and goal, which I don't know why.
Yeah, it was they went for 3-yard line too.
Yeah, it was wild, but I mean, they got the defensive stop, so that it made DK Metcalf's chase down Hawk tackle that much better. He defensive play of the game. Unfortunately, Seahawks go on to lose that game. Some bad picks thrown by Russell Wilson. Wasn't a bad game by Russell Wilson, but definitely some mistakes you're not really accustomed to see him making.
Yeah, I mean, and all those turnovers were pretty bad.
Very bad, very bad. But yeah, so we'll fill you in on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll get to see a Game 7 Wednesday night. But if the Dodgers wrap it up tomorrow, we'll obviously keep you covered on that. But tomorrow, the day we're all waiting for, Bachelor. It seems like it's about to hit that moment where it comes to the climax of Claire Crowley leaving with presumably Dale.
You think it's this episode?
I hope so,
because they've been really stretching it out.
I'm honest to God tired of Claire.
We talked about this last week, how she's just not enjoyable and she's kind of annoying, and how she's also not a good judge of character with the whole Blake thing.
Yeah, at all.
But I feel like they're just going to stretch this out for like 1 or 2 more weeks after this.
I think towards the end of this episode tomorrow, we'll see the start of it, and then at the end of or at the beginning of episode 4, like we'll get the revelation, like what it means, and then if there's a new bachelorette, which I think there will be, she'll come at the end of the 4th episode, and then we'll kind of start this thing new.
Okay.
And whatever implications that has, but yeah, I'm happy that she's leaving. I don't know. I'm happy that she went in there and found love really early. Seems like she kind of cheated the system.
Yeah.
Like she knew Dale a little bit before.
Wait, she did know him?
Well, that's what it seems like, because it was one of them that it was Blake, right?
I feel like you know stuff I don't know.
No, it was Blake that hit her up on
Yeah,
like,
she knew
Instagram,
Blake.
right?
I don't think she knew Dale.
I feel like she had to though, because
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like there was some collusion going on behind the scenes with multiple people. I don't know. That's just my take. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm excited for this. For the last 2 weeks, I just cannot wait until she leaves.
Yeah,
and that's really bad to say, but she's not that fun.
she isn't, and I mean the whole last episode we were talking about this was really unenjoyable.
Uncomfortable at times.
And yeah, totally. I mean, she didn't make like one decision where I felt, okay, that's a good decision, honestly, throughout that episode. But I'm interested in this rose ceremony because Blake gets the rose, and then everyone's pissed right away. And then basically she goes off with Dale because, okay, we know she's going to end up with Dale at this point.
Yeah.
But what is going to happen in this rose ceremony? Because at this point, I'm into it from the sports side of it, where it's like, who's going to advance?
Competition. The competition's the best part.
Yeah.
It gets boring at like when there's no more competition. But I think we're going to leave you there. Me and Nithin trying to get home, catch this Bears game. You guys should also do that. But when we come back on Wednesday, obviously deep dive in this Purdue, what it means, what the Illini have to do, some World Series stuff. Very exciting. Tomorrow, Gabby and Josh got you like always. But for me and Nithin, it's been Illini Drive at 107.1 WPGU.